Hey, welcome back to Karen's Papercraft. Thank you very much for watching. Today I've been spending some time happily die cutting flowers and leaves from this designer series paper. Isn't it gorgeous? I have two cards to show you because I made two designs and I couldn't make up my mind as to which of the two I would film, so I'm doing both. I'll have tips for you on the die cutting and on making the cards, of course, and at the end there's a bonus video, a card that I made with the scraps when your paper is so beautiful you want to be in as little as possible. So here you have my two designs, and I couldn't make up my mind which I was going to film, so I'm showing you both as promised. I'll start with this one and then that'll be my second design. I've used the Happiness Abounds Stamp Set, here it is, the Blossoming Happiness dies, and of course the Hues of Happiness designer series paper. And you can die cut at least these sheets with the dies, the flowers and the leaves as well. You need some masking paper for today's card, and any scraps I have left or cutouts that I haven't used I'll keep in a plastic baggie, and you can see that I save those as well, because these you can tuck under another flower and still use them. And I'll show you that with my bonus card. So first, some tips on the die cutting. Obviously you have to cut this down to size because, well, it wouldn't fit in your die cut machine. Now if I need an individual flower I will cut it out individually very carefully, but if I need more of a colour I just carefully go around and decide where to make my cut, and then in between, leaving as much as white space in the middle as I can, you just go around and make your cuts. This makes your paper more manageable, and as I said, don't discard these along the edge. If they are a fair size you can use them for a card. So that's how I do my die cutting, and of course well, the cutting in preparation of the die cutting. And you see here the dies that fit. You have this large one which would go onto this flower, and I'm looking for one little edge which has the, there we go, which has a very pointy bit, and that goes with that leaf. So once you've figured it out you can get it on properly. There's one which cuts this little one. This rose can be cut, it's not on this paper, but I can show you here. Here it is. See, this can be die cut as well. And this one as well, again it's not on this paper, but you could cut half of it, it would fit, you see. And it's on the pink one as well. Here it is. Oh, turn it around, there we go. And the leaves, so this one as well as this one. Now you can't cut a flower and a leaf next to it, so you'd have to do them separately. What I do is, if I have a piece of paper which is big enough to go into my die cut machine, I would cut this one and this one first, for example, and I could take this one which is not next to another one and cut those three, and then come back to do some more cutting of, for example, this flower and that one. You just have to decide which works best for you, but you can't have the dies too close together. They will cut fine, and even a small white edge around it is no problem, the die will take it, but you can't cut them too close together because they would shift and it wouldn't fit on the paper. For my first design I've done some preparation, and to show you how I do the stamping and the colouring of the flower that peeks out from the back, and I'll give you my measurements. This is thick basic white and it is 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4, or 14 by 21.6 centimeters and scored at 10.8 centimeters. You need a piece of cardstock to go over that. This is 3 by 6 inches, 7.6 by 15 centimeters, and you need a couple of flowers. These are the ones that I've cut to go onto my card. The leaves, 3, and I've already made my masks. If you make a mask, you need some masking paper. You need to stamp your flower on the masking paper and then fussy cut it so it can go over the stamped image. First I'm going to do a bit of stamping on my card base. And I'm going to stamp these two flowers a bit towards the right on my cardstock, a bit off the cardstock as well. And before I go on stamping, I need to put a mask on. When I fussy cut my masks, I cut on the stamped line, slightly inside it even, so that when you put it onto your stamped image, the colour of the stamp peeks out just very slightly. That makes for a more beautiful colouring. Now I've covered these two and I'm ready to stamp the leaves. And I'm going to mask those as well. I've stamped those leaves, oh now there's ink on my thumb. I've stamped those leaves on some masking paper as well, and before I cut them I put a little pencil mark. I'll show you. I stamped my leaves, and before I fussy cut them I put a little pencil mark on. If I can find a pencil, there. So that I know that these are the ends which come together where the stem is, and then you can do your fussy cutting, because you will be cutting them apart. So I'm cutting my leaf just on the stamped line or slightly inside it, and then you see, and now I know that when I have to put it onto my image, that one goes there with the pointy bit towards where the stem was, if I'm making sense to you. So I'm going to put my masks on now. A pair of tweezers for this kind of work makes life much easier. Okay, now then I'm going to do some colouring, and I'm using again the blushing brown ink and a blending brush, and very lightly I'm going to colour around this flower, and towards the top I just shade it towards the white. I don't want too much pink there. A pretty effect, isn't it? Now I'm going to take this piece of paper and I'm going to put it onto my grid paper, because I want my die cut, and this is the one, the die that I'm going to use, to be about 1 inch from the top and then in the middle. So I'm using my grid paper to figure out where it has to go. I think it's about time I'm getting a new cutting plate. This is getting warped a bit. It still works, so I'll just see how long it'll function. You do have to get a new one occasionally. I use mine a lot. I must have made thousands of cuts with it. But there comes a time to say goodbye and work with a new one. It's just, well, the law of physics, I suppose, because you keep rolling it through, then it will... Oh, this is lovely static, isn't it? So just... This bottom plate I've had, I don't know, for 2 years now. Occasionally I make a mistake and cut into the bottom plate, but I always cut upwards. I know people say cut downwards, I always cut upwards. For me, with my die cut machine, it works best, and it's far less wearing on the cutting plate. And the top plate does have to be exchanged every now and then, I don't know, depending on how much I've used it. Right, then you've got little bits in your cardstock, which you can use your die tip to get them out, and anyone sticking into your die still. This then can be attached to the card, and first I'm going to put a pencil line at the half-inch mark. And where's my ruler? Now I'm putting it onto my card, and you see this will be the perfect fit from the bottom up. So I'm going to stick it down from the bottom and that edge so that it ends up aligned with those two, and this one I can cut off later. I put the pencil mark there so that I know where to put my glue. Gently press down, and because the paper is a bit wobbly because of the die cutting, I just put something heavy on top. A stamping block will work. Okay, about 3 minutes later I've allowed this to dry, and now I can cut off this strip, and it has a nice fit at the top as well. Now I'm going to stick the flowers over. I have the 4. Counting is always a problem for me. You can stick your flowers on, and I'm using bits of tear and tape because I've run out of glue dots. You've heard me say that before. Still, I'm not ready to put in an order because I'm waiting until it's time for me to order again. I have to say I did try the multi-purpose liquid glue, but I found that I wanted this one I want a darker one first. As I was saying, I did try the multi-purpose liquid glue, but I wanted to be able to lift my flowers to tuck the others under. So that's why I'm using some tear and tape in the middle. And the leaves too, you want to tuck the leaves under, so you don't want... No, this one can go on top. There you go. So you don't want glue near the edges. That's what I was trying to say to you. And since I have now my glue in the middle, you could of course put a dab of the multi-purpose liquid glue under, but it spreads a bit more, and at least with the tear and tape I know where the glue is, right in the middle, it's contained. And this is a beautiful card finished. Then I'll continue with my second card, and I've done the stamping and the masking here beforehand to make it, well, more quick. This is the card. I've used a card base which is in a cardstock colour, of course, with a white mat, a strip to go over, and then my flowers. Now the sizes here for the base card are the same, so this is again 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. Then you want a cardstock mat, this one, and this is, let me just take a quick look. The basic white mat is 5 3/8 by 4 1/8, which goes on top there, you see. And I've done the stamping and the colouring with a blending brush in exactly the same way. The only thing is that here I've stamped on either side of my cardstock, so this I can attach to the card base. I've chosen it so that there is the tiniest of edges around it. And then for this card to go over, it's more or less the same process, you see. Here I want them to be about, I was thinking again, 1 inch from the top here for my die cut. Okay, so I've done my die cutting of this smaller strip. Again, I want a 1/2 inch measurement for my glue so that I know that I'm not putting too much glue near the edge. And here too, it'll be slightly over so that I can cut away both ends, you see, of the die. So I'm staying well within this line. I think it's even less than 1/2 inch. I'll just take 3/8 of an inch. So, oh, hang on, a better idea. I'm using tear and tape for this end. No glue to peep out then. And then for the rest I'll be using the liquid glue. And here I'm just putting a bit of liquid glue towards the bottom, in middle, where I know my cardstock will go. And then I'm staying away from the very edge there, do you see? So I don't have too much glue peeking out. So in these pieces I'm putting some dabs of glue. There goes my lid. The second card finished. Well, oh no, I'm sorry. I need to put my flowers on. Oh dear. Out you. I thought I'd finished. This one looks a bit bare, doesn't it? Well, yeah. Just to be the devil's advocate, I'll show you the method with the multi-purpose liquid glue. And here you see a flower that I cut from the edge. It's no problem at all because you can stick it under, you see. Nobody is any the wiser, and you can still use that bit. So I'll try the multi-purpose liquid glue here. Put a bit in the middle, a bit there, and a bit there, and there. Then I can see which method works best for me. Probably the tear and tape, but my flower on. This one can go under. Now my card is finished, and before I thank you for watching, I'm showing you what I did with a couple of scraps that I had, which also makes a really beautiful card. Well, that's it then. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.